You're listening to Her Confidence Her Way podcast, episode 79. Hey ladies, welcome back to the another episode of Her Confidence Her Way podcast. I am your host, Emiko Rasmussen. Did you guys hear? This episode is 79? What? That's crazy to me. Wow. I mean, I don't think I could have done this without you guys, your support. Whenever you guys are sending me a message or leaving me a review, it tells me that I am doing something that is positively affecting in some way for someone, and this just makes me get going. And I also wanted to thank Miho, who had joined to co-host this podcast as well. I couldn't have done this without her help as well, so thank you so much. Alright, before we move on, I wanted to do another shout out, the listener shout out. This one goes to Mari-san です。Hello, Emiko-san and Miho-san. I always enjoy your podcast. I would like to send my comment about episode 70. So episode 70, guys, this was about gender discrimination from the medical school. I almost agree with your opinion. I have been a doctor in Japan for 16 years and now I am pregnant. Congratulations. My boss and colleagues support me very well, and I'm going to continue working after my maternity leave. And she continued to share her own experience in this email. And at the end, she goes, これからもたくさんの日本人女性を勇気づけてください。ありがとうございました。ということです。I am so happy that she reached out to me because I actually get to know what is really going on. And she said it that, it is really systematical. However, the hospital that she works, she's getting a lot of support. And back then, it was September, and she told me that her due is next February. So I'm pretty sure her belly is growing and growing. So congratulations, and I cannot wait to hear from you once you have your precious baby and going back as a working mom. So thank you so much for this message. Okay, today's episode is very, very, very helpful. I have invited an expert who is concentrating on a global working environment, and she is helping Japanese people and also companies who have a relationship with Japan. Before I introduce you guys today's guest, I wanted to share something very interesting, and you might have known this already. Have you ever heard of the term woman labeling? Labeling. For example, when men are showing his leadership, he's seen as a boss. However, when a woman is showing leadership, and we also get to call bossy. I mean, I have to laugh sometimes because my kids are calling, like, stop being bossy and blah, blah, blah. And I always have to stop there and, hey, girls, let's not use that term. Showing a leadership is a great thing, and calling each other bossy doesn't help you. So I try to stop them, and then I also tell my husband too, whenever one of my daughters, is like telling my husband not necessarily what to do, but says things, and he would say like, oh, she's been really bossy or something, and I have to like tell my husband like, stop. You cannot call my girls bossy. They're expressing their feeling and showing a leadership, and we need to respect that. So if you are using this word, let's not use that anymore. Let's stop that, because showing a leadership is a great thing. And here's another one. Have you ever seen or someone saying woman about, oh, she's really pushy because she's demanding? Well, if man does it, maybe he might be called as, oh, he's really good with negotiating. Interesting, right? How about this? If men work really hard, men are seen as hardworking person versus people may think that as a woman do it, oh, she's really selfish. How dare she is not being with the family, or she's selfish. Look, that's why she can't even get married with someone. I don't know. I'm just kind of saying. Or sometimes when men kind of like gets teary or show his emotion, and men might be called as, oh, he's being real, versus when a woman started crying or showing our emotion, like, oh, she's hormonal or she's being really emotional. How about this? If man is showing what he can do, people may think that he's really capable, versus if women are doing the same thing, people may think that, oh, she's like just promoting or showing off. And I'm not making this up. This actually came from, there is actually a YouTube video about it, so I'll make sure to include that link. But these labeling happens all the time, and this really does not help. And guess what? Women, we also call each other these names, so we have to be very cautious about what we say and things, how we can help each other. Recently, Lean In, for those who are listening to my podcast, you guys know that I love the book Lean In, written by Sheryl Sandberg. And so the Lean In organization just released the report about the women in the workplace 2018, and they said that our workplace still is uneven, and there are so many challenges that as women have to face. And some of the data shows that this one, it says, women, I'm quoting, women, especially of color, women, especially women of color, receive less support from managers than men do. This is a problem because manager support is tied to positive outcome like higher promotion rates and a stronger desire to stay with a company. And here's just another one. Women think their gender makes it harder to advance, given that women remain underrepresented at almost every level in the pipeline and are less likely to be promoted than men. They appear to be right. What do you guys think about this? Luckily, the organization that I work, there are a lot of women because of the industry that I'm working. However, I see this, the higher the position that people are in, less women that I actually see. And this correlates with this term that Sheryl Sandberg wrote in the book Lean In. She talks about this as success and likability are positively correlated for men and negatively correlated for women. So the higher the women are in the position, or the higher the women are climbing the corporate ladder, women tend to be less liked, the likability factor. If you are interested in more about it, I'll definitely do another topic on this one, but I highly recommend to read a book, Lean In. I also wanted to let you know that there's actually a leaning group, leaning circle in Japan. I know there's one in Tokyo, and I know there are several of them in Japan. So I highly recommend you guys to reach out to their organization. I believe that they're really amazing and things that they do. And I know that for Lean In Circle in Japan, they understand the importance of things that's written in Lean In and what Sheryl Sandberg shares. And I think they do really good job of really, how do I explain this? To really put a filter within the Japanese culture and how they can use these ideas and apply to the Japanese working environment. So those who are listening and who are living in Japan or working in a Japanese company, I highly recommend you to either follow Lean In Tokyo or Lean In Japan, and then we even reach out to them and go to those like meetup and stuff. I know they do lots of events, so please connect with them. And for those who are working in US, although Lean In Tokyo and the Japan team is doing such a great job, I also think that it's important for you guys to read about the leanin.org, and the book definitely help you as well. Okay, so going back, the reason why I am talking about this is because as women, especially Japanese working women, I think we face a lot about like labeling, especially the likability factor. I feel like we need to remain as feminine or stay, I don't know, be quiet and just smile and be submissive and be reserved, right? However, if you are trying to work in an American or even a Western culture, those quality characteristics actually will negatively affect. So we really need to understand the culture that you work in and what kind of impact that you're actually bringing in by showing how, like, who you are. And today's guest, we have talked about this specifically, so I'm really excited to introduce you guys today's guest. Are you guys ready? Before we move on to the main topic, let's take a quick break. Are you living your life the way you want to live? Or are you following the life someone else told you to live? 自分に自信がなく自分を好きになることができない。こんな悩みを抱えていませんか？ Her Confidence Her Way では働く女性の自分探し、自分の価値観を理解するお手伝いをし、女性が自信を持って本当にやりたいと思っていることができるようにサポートし、生きがい、充実感のあるワークライフを応援しています。Her Confidence Her Way is all about helping Japanese working women to discover their true self so that they can see their own values and helping them to build their confidence to live the purposeful and meaningful work life they love. 自分らしくワークライフをクリエイトしていくための First Step は自分の強みを理解すること。日本人一人しかいないコーポレートアメリカで働く中で痛い、恥ずかしい、そして悲しい思いを繰り返しながら自分を信じる力をゼロから積み上げていきました。その時に一番役立ったのが自己発見、Gifted Talent を探すことです。自分ができること、自分にしかできないユニークさを理解することによってどこにフォーカスを置いていいか、自分が今後どんなキャリア、人生を送っていきたいのかがよく理解できます。もっと自分らしく充実したワークライフをクリエイトしたいあなた、ぜひ私のニュースレターに登録して自分のギフテッドタレントを探すワークシートで新たな自分を発見してみてください。もちろん登録は無料です。登録は私のウェブサイト www.herconfidenceherway.com からできます。エピソードでお話しした内容、アドバイス、またはエピソードで出てきたリンク、他のサイトも私のウェブサイトで紹介しています。そしてこのエピソードがとっても役に立ち、もっと聞きたいと思った方はぜひこのポッドキャストをスポンサーしてください。私のウェブサイトからポッドキャストをサポートするをクリック。今後も私たちがポッドキャストを続け、より良いエピソードをお届けするためにもリスナーさんからの寄付をお待ちしています。最後にLet's connect with me on Instagram. 私のアカウントは @emiko rasmussen EMIKORASMUSSEN です。DM からいただいたメッセージは必ずお返しします。Alright, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. このポッドキャストの購読もお忘れずに。Now, let's get back to the show. Let me introduce today's guest, Rochelle Kopp.She is a founder and a managing principal of Japan Intercultural Consulting. Rochelle works to help clients increase profitability and employee engagement through improved communication and working relationships in multicultural environments. She is currently focused on helping Japanese companies be more successful in their global operations, supporting effective human resources management practices.Organization development and cross-cultural training and team building. She also works frequently with American firms that have Japanese customers, joint venture partners, and suppliers. ロシャオは数多くの本を出版されています。反省しないアメリカ人を扱う方法34。日本企業の社員はなぜこんなにもモチベーションが低いのかや英語の品格をはじめ他にもいろいろな本を出版されています。Okay, here's my conversation with Rochelle. Hi Rochelle, welcome to Her Confidence Her Way podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump in. I want to know, where did you grow up, and share with us what were you like as you were growing up?
Okay. Well, I was born in Rochester, which is in the northern part of New York State. And then my family moved to Chicago when I was 9. And my big interest as a child was artwork. I loved to draw and paint and go to art museums and things like that.
Oh, wonderful. And tell us about what you do.
So I'm a management consultant and I specialize in cross-cultural communication. So I work with Japanese companies that are operating globally and also with companies from other countries that are doing business in Japan or with Japanese customers.
I see. So my understanding is that you can speak several languages. Is that
Well,
correct?
I speak Japanese fluently and I'm a real beginner with Spanish.
Okay.
And I took French in high school, and it's enough to read menus in a French restaurant.
Well, that's something.
Right.
I also learned French when I was in junior college, and I don't really remember much because I don't use it. So, but may I ask, what made you to be able to speak Japanese?
Well, I started studying it when I was in college.
Okay.
And then later I lived and worked in Japan.
Oh, for how long?
For 2 years when I was working at the Yasuda Trust and Banking Company.
Uh-huh.
And then since becoming a consultant, I travel to Japan very frequently. So this year and last year, about a third of my time will be spent in Japan.
I see. And what triggered you to really like go deep into this like learning about the Japanese culture and in the cultural gap and all that?
Well, as I mentioned, I was very interested in art, and so I was very fascinated by Japanese art. And I
Got it.
I took lessons at an artist studio when I was in high school, and there was a Japanese artist who used the space there, and she was really interesting. And so I got kind of this idea that Japanese things were interesting. And then when I went to college, I realized that I wanted to have a career in business. And I thought, well, if I learned Japanese, it would be really fun from the art side, but also something useful for a future career. Kind of kill two birds with one stone.
I was wondering this. I knew there is something, the art was a key, but I didn't know what the connection was.
Right.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's really amazing. So Rochelle serves as a bridge to fill in the cultural gaps, and it is such an important role. And I feel like Japanese people are focusing on just studying English and just be able to speak English. But as you know, that is not all. This is just a tool. I mean, English is just a tool to communicate with people, and there are so much more to learn. So I kind of want to learn more about your what you teach and your expertise. So what are the gaps do you see in Japanese leadership, and what do you teach for companies where multiple nationalities or people from different cultural backgrounds are working together?
So that's a big question. I think that the real biggest key for any multicultural situation is understanding differences in communication style. Some cultures, people communicate very directly. They tell you exactly what they think with no softeners. Whereas some cultures really like to avoid saying things directly, especially negative information. So they might not say anything, or they may just kind of give a hint, but not really say it. And so it's really important to understand what is your own style and what is the style of the people that you are working with.
I see. Do you have like any personal experience, or it doesn't have to be like personal, but professional experience while you're working in Japan? And obviously, you know, you grew up in the US, and Japan and US, America has such a different communication style. Like, is there any like aha moment, or is there some like experience like, ooh, that was good to know, like good lesson to learn?
Oh, that's a good question on communication style. Well, I think the big thing that I had to get used to was when people would say, "Oh, that's going to be difficult." And from American perspective, oh, something's difficult. That means we have to try harder. Whereas from the Japanese perspective, it's a very indirect way of saying, let's not do this.
Oh, wow, really? I didn't even think that. I was thinking it's going to be difficult, but we can do it. I guess I have this like a little bit of, I have been working in the US for over 10 years now, so I guess I do have that more so of the American.
Probably you picked that up, yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that's good to know. I will definitely be careful next time. So speaking of Japanese culture, I kind of want to really focus on the Japanese working woman and in American company. What are the challenges do you see, especially in Japanese working women, being reserved or being woman-like behavior, aka I'm not sure if you've heard of the term joshiryoku. It's highly valued in Japanese culture. There are various traditional, typical, the Japanese cultural or social expectations pressuring women, which really limits Japanese women's ability to advance their career. And I am definitely, I myself was a walking example, and I faced a lot of challenges. So I kind of want to know what do you think are what can these cultural value affect negatively on our career?
Yes, I definitely think that Japanese culture expects women to be demure and soft-spoken and modest and to defer to other people. And of course, there's many nice things about that style, but the problem is in a Western business environment, someone who behaves that way could be overlooked. And so, this is a challenge for American women also, but I think especially for Japanese women, is how do you balance being assertive while also being feminine? And it's not an easy balance to make, but it is possible.
Yes, it's for me when I was in the office. Well, when I was in Japan, I was never told that I am a quiet person. I'm more like outgoing, and I not necessarily on like speaking my truth because as I was living in Japan, I feel like I couldn't really raise my hand and share my true, honest opinion. However, whenever I have a chance, I was trying to, kind of express my feeling and all that when I was in Japan. And then I came here, and obviously I was like one of the quiet one. And it wasn't my intention. However, I think it came that way. And luckily, many of my great mentors really taught me, things that I can do as a woman. And I know that adding that being an Asian, a Japanese woman is really adding a filter. So that's really good to know. Let's see. So there are many different leadership and professional development classes you have been teaching. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And for example, like one of the things that I like is the concept of like servant leadership, but they have the strengths-based leaderships, situational leadership, and there are so many other leadership styles. So I want to know, what is your favorite concept you like to teach for Japanese professionals, and I want to know the reason why.
Certainly. So I am a big fan of the servant leadership concept. That I think it's one that's very effective, and it's been proven by many academic studies to lead to improved results for companies, both financially and also in terms of employee happiness. And so I think also that servant leadership has a couple of key benefits for Japan. One, I think that it's a good antidote to some of the problems in Japanese companies. In many Japanese companies, there is, too much hierarchy and managers who are very harsh towards subordinates. And servant leadership is really the opposite of that. Also, when I talk with many Japanese women in Japan, there's a lot of women who feel like, oh, I don't want to be a manager.
Right.
And when I ask them why, they say it's because they don't want to be like those managers that they see.
Oh my goodness,
right?
yes.
Those people are not really very appealing role models for most women.
Right.
And so I feel that the concept of servant leadership is one that could be more comfortable for women. Because I think it's maybe more compatible with how women want to see themselves.
Right. Oh, that is such a great point. And also, not having enough women, like female leadership, really doesn't help neither, right?
Right. Well, it's kind of we could call it a chicken and egg situation or a vicious circle. There's no women who are in leadership roles to be role models. Women don't see a role model. They can't imagine themselves. So then they don't become a leader, and you don't have female leaders. It just keeps repeating itself. So we need to break that cycle somehow.
That's so true. I know this is like one of the biggest thing, especially in Japan. But I also, like here in US too, I know that, there's the Lean In and other amazing organizations. They're really working together to really increase the women's visibility and leadership and stuff. So I'm definitely really passionate about it. And also one time I was coaching for my coaching clients, and she said, oh no, I'm really like an ennoshita no chikaramochi, like the person who like to support. But I think ennoshita no chikaramochi is really the servant leadership.
Yes, that's
idea,
true.
Don't you think?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So that servant leadership could be a good leadership model for that person.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, that's really great. I'm just going to have to tell my client to listen to this episode for sure.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go ahead and ask you some Her Confidence Her Way power questions. Are you ready? The first question that I'm going to ask you is, how would you define your own self-confidence, and how are you building your own?
That's a good question. I do think that I have a lot of self-confidence, and I feel very comfortable in my abilities. I think for me, where I got that is, I went to a very competitive college, and when I was a freshman, I was in a special honors program where we were reading, the great books, the classics, and we were taught in small seminars where there was a lot of intensive discussion with the professor. And, I had never read any of these books. I wasn't used to this method of learning. And so many of the other students had gone to expensive private high schools or like fancy East Coast boarding schools, that sort of thing. And so that's the classes that I liked. They were all used to it. And I was very kind of intimidated. But I worked really hard, and I ended up getting A's in the classes. Wow. And so that gave me a lot of confidence. I thought, wow, I went to this Ivy League school, and I took this difficult program, and I could do well, and I could even do better than some of these people who went to the fancy schools that I didn't go to. And so that gave me a lot of confidence that, okay, if I try hard at something, I can do it. So I think having a good experience helps build confidence.
I know there are so many Japanese women, they really struggle with their own self-confidence, and because of that, they can't even take that first step to do something that they really want to do. Like, what do you think? And I know for me, it's easy to say, just do it.
Right, exactly. Same here, yes. Well, I think there's a couple things that I see with Japanese women. And, well, Japanese men do this too, but I think that Japanese do a lot of what we call in the United States negative self-talk. So self-talk is that voice that's in your head, when you're talking to yourself. And a lot of times Japanese people just say mean things to themselves. Oh, I'm stupid. I can't do this. I'm dumb. I don't have any skill. They say it to themselves. They also say it out loud a lot too. And, and sometimes in Japanese society, there's almost a pressure to be, saying bad things about yourself. But
or do you think it's also like seen as some sort of humble sign
Yes,
gesture?
same as being humble, and being humble is very good in Japanese culture, so it's kind of encouraged. But what it does is when you say these things, either out loud or in your head, you program yourself negatively because your brain is like a computer program and it responds to the inputs you give it. And so if you keep saying negative things to yourself, oh, I'm dumb, or I can't do it, or I don't have any skill, well, then it's going to be really hard to overcome that. So I feel like Japanese need to start saying positive things to themselves. Like, I can do it. I have talent. I have ability. All those positive kind of affirmations. I think Japanese really need those.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And do you also teach these things as well, like the mindset for your...
Yes, I do. Yes.
Oh, it's so important. That's so great. Well, thank you. And what is your gifted talent, and how are you using your talent for your work?
Oh boy, that's a good question. And I feel like I have a lot of different talents. I think that I'm very good at synthesizing information and writing. And so I write books and articles. I also design the training materials that we use in our firm. And so I'm very good at kind of putting together ideas in a good format. So that's my kind of introverted skill. And I also have an extroverted skill of, I really love facilitating team building seminars, and I like interacting with groups, and I like kind of creating a space for people. So I think it's a real skill that I have too.
Ah, it's so good. I was actually stalking you for a while not in a bad, weird way, online, watching your workshop and stuff through YouTube. Thank goodness now they have that. And, you really create such a engaging environment, because I must say it is very hard for you to interact with Japanese people and gain that engagement. I think it's easier for people from the Western culture who are more likely to express their feeling and share their opinion freely. So you can kind of tell if they're understanding or not, versus giving a workshop. I assume that it's a little bit harder. What would you say about this?
Oh boy. Sometimes it is a little bit harder to get Japanese to kind of come out of their shells, but I like to try and do that because I think it's really all about creating an environment in the room where people feel comfortable speaking out. And so I really think a lot about how to do that.
That's another skill for sure. Okay, I would like to know, so this question is one of my favorites. So ikigai, have you ever heard of the term ikigai?
Yes, I have.
Okay, it's a Japanese concept that means a reason for being, and
right.
A reason for being in this world. What is your ikigai? Like, what excites you, or what is your reason to just jump out of bed each morning?
Well, I really like to feel like I can have some sort of impact and help people. And whether that's through something I write or seminar that I teach, I really want to have some kind of positive impact for people.
Love it. What can a Japanese working woman work on to reach their potential and elevate their career in the U.S.? or in a global working environment? And do you have any advice you would like to give for the listeners who are listening to this episode?
Well, I think it's really two things. I think one, make sure that you are building some skill that is something that you enjoy doing and that really accesses your talents. But I think developing a deep skill or expertise is very important in the Western working environment. Sometimes in Japanese companies, people get rotated from position to position and they become generalists. But I think in order to succeed in a Western working environment, you have to have more of a deep specialty. So that would be one thing. And then the second thing is I would recommend that people work on their communication skills. Being able to express themselves both verbally and in writing, I think is really important.
Got it. Yes, that's definitely, I think it's ongoing skills that I need to work myself. And I know that it's not just for Japanese people. I know there are a lot of people, even just native English speakers, people around the world. I know that number one fear that I hear is the public speaking, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. But that's really important skill, and it's one that you can develop. I tell everyone to look for Toastmasters. It's a group where you can practice your communication skills or your presentations, and peers give each other feedback. They have a very well-designed curriculum, and they have clubs all over the world, including a lot of them in Japan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. My co-host, she lives in, Gifu, and she is part of the Toastmaster as well.
Aha. Oh, very good.
Yeah, so it's great. And then I was also part of Toastmaster for a little bit, and then because of our work location changed, and I wasn't able to continue during the work schedule. But then we recently just started our own group. For us, it's strictly just a peer-to-peer giving a feedback, and just like providing an opportunity to practice in front of people.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the key thing. So.
And feedback it's a gold.
Right, it really is. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, wow, that was just jam-packed. And this is my last question for you. Where can we find you, and how the listener can connect with you? Do you have any? I know you have a website, and I know we connected through Twitter, but what would be the best way for the listeners?
Well, any of those, there is my website, which is www.japanintercultural.com. I am addicted to Twitter, and so I have a Japanese language Twitter, JIC Rochelle, and I have an English Twitter, Japan Intercult. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm happy to have anyone friend me on Facebook if you would like, and I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Well, that is all the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you want to leave for the listeners?
One thing for people who are in Japan, on November 7th in Tokyo, I'm going to be having a Working Effectively with Non-Japanese course. And I'll be talking about some of the communication techniques and things that we mentioned today. So for anyone who's in Japan and wants to kind of hear about some things in depth, that's one thing that you might be interested in.
So it's going to be on November
7th.
7th. Okay.
In Tokyo.
Perfect. In Tokyo. Yes. I will definitely link all those information that Rochelle mentioned on my my website, so you can also get all the information from there as well. Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for taking your time to share your knowledge with our listeners. We really appreciate you.
Well, thanks so much. It's an honor to be your guest.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
There you have it. I hope you have enjoyed my conversation with Rochelle. Oh my goodness. This conversation was just chock full of greatness, great knowledge, and advice that we can definitely take on. One of the things that I really liked what Rochelle said is that it was about the Japanese woman with the social expectation. She mentioned that Japanese culture expects women to be soft-spoken, reserved, or defer to others. And she just brought up the importance of how we need to be able to balance, to be assertive and be feminine, because there are some great things about being feminine. And it is just, I know it's not that easy. It's easy to say that. It is easy to say than done. But we really need to understand the importance of keeping that balance. Otherwise, you're just going to be looked over and you're going to miss that opportunity for promotion or receiving other great opportunities. So we really need to be aware of. The other things that she mentioned was that how servant leadership concept is such a great leadership concept that we can use for Japanese culture, and I completely agree. Many people think that they will say, oh, I'm not a leader, or I can't be a leader. But leader it's a skill that you can build on, and anyone can be a leader once we become a leader. And actually we all are a leader of our own self too. So it's very important to understand the concept of leadership and how you can lean in. Lastly, Rochelle encouraged us to keep developing the deep skills and expertise in order to reach our potential to elevate our career. And of course, she recommended us to work on our communication skills, and I know that that's something that we're all working on. Okay, at the end of the conversation, Rochelle mentioned about the event, and I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware. If you really enjoyed my conversation with Rochelle, and if you're living in Japan, you may want to consider attending Rochelle's event workshop. It is called 外国人とうまく働く方法異文化理解セミナー Working Effectively with Non-Japanese Seminar。 これはですね、11月7日です。It is on November the 7th, 2018. It is an all-day event from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's in Japan time, of course. And it is going to be in Tokyo International House of Japan. So if you're interested in, please go to my website and check more details. Alright, that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will chat with you on the next episode. Bye-bye!